Welcome everyone to OnPodcast, the On Microsoft podcast, where we talk about Microsoft stuff on a podcast. I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson, and we'll be talking all things Windows, Windows updates, Surface rumors, Surface event updates and dates, and FCC filings, as well as a new collaborative tool for Outlook. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Our opening discussion is all things Windows 11 2022 Fall Update. Earlier this week, Microsoft began rolling out the first major update to its Windows 11 operating system, which brings a few convenient features as well as a bit more polish to the operating system itself. The features list for the 2022 update may not be as extensive as some might have hoped for if they felt they waited an entire year to get an upgraded experience from what was delivered last November. Microsoft has discussed moving to an expedited feature release schedule while simultaneously pumping the brakes on larger scale Windows operating releases to kind of address this issue. In the notes of the Windows 2022 update, the Windows team mentioned that an addendum feature pack will be rolling out next month that houses some of the more visually exciting changes to Windows that many insiders have been testing for some time. And as for the leap from Windows 11 to whatever comes next, Microsoft has floated the idea that users should expect the release in about 2 or 3 more years. Moving on to what's actually in the Windows Fall 11 update that's rolling out into 190 countries as we speak, users can expect smaller and faster installation updates, which means the Windows team is focused on delivering smaller download sizes of feature updates. According to the press release that accompanied this week's rollout, the Windows team managed to shrink the current download size of features by 450 megabytes, which should allow users to reclaim hundreds of megabytes in user resources during the process. We will have to test that out. The next big thing that came with this update was additional snap layouts. The Windows team introduced snap layouts with the original rollout of Windows 11, but this time around they're adding 2 more Windows snapping options that include 1x3 configurations, which means you can put 3 windows snapped side by side on the same screen. For most higher end resolution screens, or at least support for higher end resolution screens. For anyone with a widescreen monitor, you might be saying,
It's about damn time. It's about damn time.
It's about damn time. Focus sessions was another thing that was added to, or at least rolled into this Windows update. The Windows team went to work on the clock app like Dr. Frankenstein did on his monster. They just started adding and bolting things on and produced a new focus sessions experience that adds a utility for users to set time frames for do not disturb modes that incorporate playlists from Spotify as well. So users can maximize their productivity time and or, like myself, the anti-productivity time. Whatever you need to relax, take a break from work, spend 30 minutes just listening to music or podcasts. It's just so you can come back to whatever task you're doing a little bit more refreshed. That's been my motto, and I still got a job. Windows Studio Effects was another thing that came with this update, and that's become Microsoft's name for the hosting of all kinds of streaming communication aspects of Windows 11. It comes with a plethora of updates for communication, streaming, and editing using Windows 11. Perhaps the biggest yet underrated change to Windows 11 now includes refinements to the Windows camera, which is now being called the Windows Studio camera. I don't know why. According to the Windows team, the Windows Studio camera will now support background blur, auto eye contact corrections, and auto framing within other third-party conferencing software. I don't believe it's out of the box, but you can go into these settings and adjust them. Another part of the Studio Effects is voice focus improvements. Voice focus is a new feature, or at least a rebranded feature, for audio-only calls, which will make use of new AI-powered filters, to which Microsoft wasn't super specific about, but they say it's in there, so I'm up to believe them. After buying Clipchamp, the Windows team quickly rolled it into this update, and many of the built-in apps such as Photos link back out to this cloud-based editing software, which has been a nice touch for quick edits for myself, and I'm sure for anybody who needs to use it. To help users refrain from having to open up their denser applications such as DaVinci Resolve or Adobe Premiere, or even Filmora for that matter. And it's relatively quick, so it's good that Microsoft's building this in. They might need to change the UI a little bit to match what's going on in the overall Windows aesthetic, but that's for months down the road, I suppose. As part of the full Windows Studio Effect features update, in Windows 11. It now supports Windows 11 now natively supports auto HDR and variable refresh rates, which I hope addresses some of the battery drain issues that come with these two features when they're normally bolted on by third-party OEMs. It should also represent a nice change for gamers to have a little bit more support out of the box, at least when using Windows, to support the now connected devices, or especially displays, which have been supporting high refresh rates for some time now. Speaking of which, there's been an update to the Xbox apps, which now consolidates Microsoft's Xbox app and Game Pass interface into a single app, as well as a convenient place to launch xCloud games from. This isn't a separate browser instance, by the way. Microsoft has also kept its promise to bring Android to Windows by bringing the Amazon App Store to Windows through an Android container. Yes, this feature is roughly a year late and only offers 20,000 Amazon no-name apps, really. But it's here, works relatively well once set up. As I presume, the demand for this feature is low enough that Microsoft hasn't enabled this feature by default. It's kind of a process to set up, but once completed, users would gain access to apps such as the Audible app, which is a great benefit for those of you who have been using the Windows 10 version because it's being deprecated, I believe, in the next month or so. You'll also get access to the Kindle app, Duolingo, and several other approved Amazon games, Android games. If that hasn't piqued your interest, Google is also working to bring Android games to Windows via their own development efforts, according to a piece from The Verge, which was written about 3 months ago. So we should be seeing some effort there where Google will bring its own Android games app to Windows at some point in the future and bypass the Microsoft Store altogether. But at least we'll all get the games. It's a win-win for everybody, I think. Once again, Microsoft is trying to cater to developers by formalizing advertising in the Microsoft Store with new tools and the same advertising platform used for Microsoft Ads. Ideally, app developers working through the Microsoft Store can better target their intended audiences and leverage those audiences with ads across Bing and LinkedIn platforms. Microsoft also updated its Defender Smart Screen identifier with an improved pop-up UI to alert users who were entering their Microsoft credentials into malicious applications or hacked websites. Another security update to Windows 11 that is automatic, or at least automagic, or tweaks to Windows Hello that should speed up the time it takes for the camera to recognize users by leveraging an optional presence sensing tech to wake up or put to sleep the camera when a user approaches or leaves their workstation. Creepy technology. Microsoft is also introducing Smart App Controls, which blocks untrusted or unsigned applications, script files, and malicious macros from running on Windows 11. Smart App Controls use the same security AI as the Windows Defender application present in both Windows 10 and Windows 11, and could be further improved by using the device's history to better assess real-time or repeated threats. Microsoft also explained details of the first feature pack update rolling out to Windows 11 that is separate from what users are getting today. While there's no formal name for it, we in the industry have been referring to it as the Moments Update, because some Microsoft marketing exec floated the idea in a press release, and we haven't been able to let go of it because it's ridiculous. Awful and confusing naming aside, the new Moments update is scheduled for next month and might show up around the same time as the now confirmed Surface event, which is in October. With that update, what people are expected to find, or at least get, is the enhanced File Explorer UI, which we thought we were going to get in this update, but I guess we're getting in this next one, which brings a tabbed interface a la Sets from back in the day, as well as updates to the Photo app, which dev insiders have been kind of playing around with over the last 48 hours. A new suggested actions on copy selections that include making calls or plugging things in automatically, or plugging data in automatically to the calendar app. Another addition is the long-awaited Taskbar Overflow UI and support to shared or more devices. The Windows 11 2020 update in a nutshell, that's about it. If there are any code gurus out there, I encourage you to reach out to us or post on Twitter so we can follow you about if there's any dormant code that you can find that may signal to other app development or UI developments coming for future Windows 11 feature releases. On to the headlines, which we'll try and blow through because we spent a lot of time with the update. Did Microsoft employees get a break with Adobe? Adobe's purchase of the design platform Figma has been a critical buy for Adobe and one that should signal anti-competitive bells with authorities. While I have no skin in the game, Figma has quietly amassed a position as a competitor to Adobe and one that many design teams within Microsoft have often chosen over the more recognizable brand. However, now that Adobe has swallowed Figma for upwards of $15 billion, the design teams within Microsoft may be able to breathe a bit easier without having to toe the line with its far more lucrative partner, Adobe, catching any feelings about their choice to use Figma instead. I'll talk more about the significance of the Adobe-Figma relationship in another opening discussion segment, but suffice to say, competitively priced subscription-based design tools just had another competitor wiped off the board, which will leave Adobe with little to no incentive to reduce its almost $700 a year subscription prices anytime soon. Sad news. Another headline we had this week was Surface Pro dying its FCC clearance. Get those conspiracy engines churning as leaked docs and code names start piling or spilling out on the internet ahead of Microsoft's fall service event. Earlier this week, an FCC filing for a tablet mode-enabled device from Microsoft just got clearance. And some of the details include modems that can simultaneously transmit 4G LTE and 5G signals. While most versions of the Surface Pro can come with wireless data connectivity options, the fact that this mystery device can transmit dual signals at the same time points to a technology that isn't commonplace for most Intel modems, and gives credence to the fact that we may be getting a new ARM-based Surface Pro 9 or Surface Pro X. We've already discussed the prospect of Microsoft housing the innards of the latest Surface Pro and Surface Pro X in the same body and simply offering different configuration options for customers. But with this new FCC filing, it's starting to calcify those rumors a little bit more. Even with the new, another headline read, even with the new ARM Surface coming soon, Surface laptops may be Intel only. It's a bit depressing. On that note, it looks like Microsoft is going to keep it pretty standard for this for its other mainstream computing device, the Surface Laptop 5. Many are speculating that it could be an Intel-only affair for the Surface Laptop 5, getting a spec bump with the 12th gen Intel Core i5 and i7 U series processors, up to 16 gigabytes of memory and 1 terabyte of storage, but no mention of AMD or ARM as configuration options. If this reality holds true, the Surface Laptop 5 will need to be accompanied by a major design overhaul to overshadow the minor spec bump or spec processor bump for this year, with Apple and other OEMs adding more ports, slimmer bezels, beefier specs, discrete GPUs, variable refresh rates, improved webcams, larger memory and storage capacities, just adding a 12th gen processor to the laptop. And we've seen testing that this 12th gen processor has trouble overheating and delivering consistent performance with many devices. This doesn't bode very well for the Surface Laptop 5 being a kind of a hit out of the box. I do pray there's more in store for the laptop this year than just a play it safe, put a chip in it and ship it kind of strategy. I'm hoping that Microsoft does overhaul the laptop. I love the design. It just could use some more modern specs and more modern features, in my opinion. Another headline we have is more Xbox games can now be played without connecting to the internet. Start rolling in your grave, Don Matrick. Well, he may not be in a grave, but he may be laying down somewhere, and he may be involuntarily doing somersaults, as the Xbox team has just enabled more games to be played without connecting to the internet. Famously, Matrick was taken to task by gamers following an interview where he was questioned about the DRM and always connected policies for the Xbox One. In that questioning, he was left with answering something about military personnel and submarines simply buying Xbox 360s.
If we didn't do it, and fortunately we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity, it's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360, that's your message if you don't, like it?
If you have zero access to the internet, that is an offline device. I mean, seriously, when I read the blogs and thought about who's really the most impacted, there was a person who said, hey, I'm on a nuclear sub.
Right.
And I don't even know what it means to be on a nuclear sub, but I've got to imagine that it's not easy to get an internet connection.
Wasn't a good look. Didn't age very well. Fortunately for everyone involved, Matrick is no longer a part of the Xbox team, and perhaps as a result, the platform continues to try and deliver for all gamers, including the latest update, which eliminates the online check-in for physical Xbox game discs for the Xbox Series X and Series S. Previously, Xbox One game discs required a check-in when playing Series X or playing on the Series S or X. This was the case even when smart delivery wasn't available for a game. It also meant that offline gamers were unable to play during service outages. Engineering lead at the Xbox team named Eden Marie stated in a tweet that online compatibility checks were necessary for many Xbox game discs. Its removal in this case means that a great many more Xbox One games are now playable completely offline. Hooray time. Could the FCC filing for Microsoft be pointing to the Studio Surface 3? In more potentially exciting news for another FCC filing submitted by Microsoft, we find out that there is a filing for what could be the long-rumored Surface Studio 3, making an appearance sometime soon. While the details are light for the filing, the reference to a, quote, desktop computer with an Intel processor pretty much leads everyone to believe it is the Surface Studio by way of elimination, which I guess desktop would be the only offering that Microsoft has that isn't considered mobile or tablet at this point. We reported accessories and peripherals that could accompany the new Surface Studio last week, and we're pretty sure that it's set to update. Microsoft is set to update its all-in-one offering soon. Updated to what? That we're less clear about. But it seems reasonable to assume that this time around Microsoft will include a faster refresh rate for the display, slimmer bezels, faster processor, beefier GPUs, and perhaps a redesign of the CPU body for better ventilation, especially if they're using these 12th gen CPUs, which, like I mentioned, have some trouble with heating. To be quite honest, if Microsoft only shipped a Surface Studio display, though, to be paired wired or wirelessly with existing and future devices, I would consider that a win. Microsoft confirms its Surface hardware event October 12th, 2022 with save the date invites. Microsoft has officially confirmed it will be hosting a hardware event on October 12th. A couple of days ago. Microsoft began emailing press a save the date invite, an invite where the company, quote, will talk about devices. The now annual fall Surface event is underway and is scheduled to begin at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or 10 a.m. Eastern on October 12th. And is billed as a virtual experience where others can view it online as well. We'll post links to where you can view the live stream as well as any other information that leaks before this event in the next couple weeks. Microsoft Outlook will soon let users collaborate in email using Loop component. Surprise, not a Windows or Surface headline, but we'll cover it nonetheless today. Loop is the furthest thing from a scary title, but Google advocates may be raising an eyebrow as Microsoft Loop Components is scheduled to reach general availability in November of this year. I say that because Google introduced, I believe it's Spaces or something, Workspaces or Spaces, which is a very similar technology to help kind of mend all of its documents and productivity apps together. Microsoft introduced, or at least started talking about Loops about 2 years ago. Looks like it's making its way to more apps as we speak. The Loop component is a mesh platform that supports real-time collaboration between Microsoft productivity suites of apps. Loop components are already available in Microsoft Teams, and now the features labeled 93234 in the Microsoft 365 roadmap will be available for Outlook on the web, as well as the Outlook Windows desktop client, as an insert via the toolbar. Once enabled, users will be able to collaborate, edit the content in line, and see changes made in real time across emails and Teams chats. Last up, the new Photos app for Windows 11. Microsoft mentioned it would be shipping a new Photos app experience with additional October feature update pack, and with the latest Windows 11 Insider Dev Channel release, insiders are now testing that exact app, which now brings a new UI to organize photos, an easier way to back up photos using OneDrive, a new memories experience, multi-window and multi-screen support, info on OneDrive storage capacity as well as management options, and an easier way to import images from cameras. The overall look of the app has been uplifted as well and follows a more conformed Windows 11 UI with extended side menus, more iconography, that new opacity effect that allows colors to kind of bleed in through the windows elegantly at least. But the app is still lacking some basic features like spot fix, navigating from images once selected or zoomed in. It also opens each image in an independent window instead of the single app itself, which again makes for harder navigation through the app. But hey, Microsoft has a couple of weeks to get this polished and shipped, and I'm sure they'll have it as polished and shipped on a timely manner as any other Windows update has been. That's it for today. It's been a mostly Windows and Surface-centric pod as we head into Techtober and the impending Microsoft event. I want to thank you for spending some time with me this weekend, and I look forward to the news, as I hope you guys do, as well as dealing with the fallout from this Windows 11 2022 update, because in life, no good deed goes unpunished. I'm sure the Windows team is dealing with a backlog of complaints already. If you're into more than just listening to me covering the news, you can go and read full articles and details at our website on Microsoft.com, where we host the latest breaking news, editorials, a growing list of how-tos regarding the use of Windows, emails, servers, gaming, virtual machines, and security. As always, I am me, you are you. Please go do something wonderful with that knowledge. Bye.